Hi, get ready to dive into a spine-chilling horror story.
Name of the tale: Shadows of Unknown. It was pitch dark for Arun to see anything, but he caught a flicker of light from his bedroom, casting shadows on the wall outside the room, at 2 in midnight. He didn't pay much attention. In fact, he didn't want to believe what he saw. So he refrained from telling or doing anything about it. The following day, around the same time, he noticed the same flickering light on the hall wall outside his bedroom. Summoning the little courage he had, he stepped out of bed to take a peek in the hall. The house wasn't particularly large, but it was spacious enough for a family of 4. It consisted of 2 bedrooms next to each other, with a dining hall in front of Arun's room and the main hall in front of his parents' room. He can see a portion of the hall laying on the bed from his bedroom. However, for the past few days, Arun's parents were out of town, and his grandmother was staying with him. As Arun gathered his courage and cautiously peered out of his room, he noticed his grandmother emerging from his parents' room, holding a torch and heading towards the bathroom adjacent to their room. Relief washed over him as he saw his grandmother. He calmed himself down and returned to his bed. The next day, Rahul woke up already past noon. After freshening up, he headed straight for lunch. While his grandmother served his meal, he brought up the topic and began explaining how terrified he was by the shadows of light he had seen the previous night. His grandmother burst into laughter and assured him that ghosts and such things did not exist and not to believe in such stories. Later that day, around 11 p.m., a power outage occurred while Arun was watching Netflix on the television. He decided to call it a night. His phone was in the bedroom. He went to take the torch, which was next to her grandmother in his parents' room. To his surprise, when he reached for the torch, he found it devoid of any batteries. Not paying it much heed, he left the torch next to his grandmother's pillow and made his way back to his bedroom in the dark. Time seemed to fly by as Arun immersed himself in his phone. It was around 2 when the familiar shadows on the wall caught his attention again. Fear enveloped Arun, his heart racing, as countless thoughts flooded his mind simultaneously. He mustered the courage to emerge from his bed and cautiously peered out of his room. To his astonishment, he witnessed his grandmother walking in the same manner as the previous night. His heartbeat reached its crescendo, and he hastily retreated to his bed in a single jump. He didn't want to believe it. His body drenched in sweat. Trembling, he picked up his phone, his hands shaking, dialed his father's number. On the phone, it asked for his permission as if it asks before connecting to an international number. He didn't understand why his father would be in a foreign. He thought the call would be misdirected. He tried again to find the same sentences repeating again. His nerves were taut, unsure of what to do. Filled with desperation, he decided to call for help and dialed the police emergency line. When they answered, he pleaded for assistance and provided his address in a feeble voice. 2 constables were dispatched to the address. Arun covered himself completely with his bed sheets, sweating profusely as he anxiously waited for help. He heard someone attempting to open the gate and took a peek from his window, only to see the 2 constables retreating as they failed to unlock it. He was bewildered, unable to comprehend the situation. He tried to call out to them in the softest voice possible, but his pleas went unheard. Terror gripped him as he dialed the police station again. As they answered, he began complaining about the irresponsible behavior of their constables. The phone slipped from his hand as the person on the other end informed Arun that the constables had discovered a locked gate, called out, but received no response from inside. He hadn't heard anyone calling out to him. It was already 4 in the morning, and the first light of dawn began to peek over the horizon. Arun had been awake the entire night, and apart from seeing his grandmother with the torch, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Exhausted and attempting to get some sleep, he found himself trembling as his grandmother entered the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Standing behind her, shivering, he mustered everything he had and managed to explain everything that had transpired the previous night. Hearing Arun's words, his grandmother was shocked. She hurried to her room and retrieved the torch. They stood face to face, Arun's grandmother holding the torch. She opened it to reveal the absence of batteries. Despite this, she turned it on. Both of them trembled with fear as they acknowledged the torch illuminating without any source of power. At that very moment, they heard the jangling sound of keys outside their front door. Paralyzed with fear, neither of them mustered the courage to open it. With each step toward the door, their minds raced with 1,000 thoughts. The jangling sound of the keys grew louder with each approaching step. They stood just 10 steps away from the door when someone from outside opened it. Arjun and his grandmother cowered behind the nearby wall, their hearts pounding. As they turned their backs to the door and hid, they were petrified by the sight before them. On the wall directly opposite the door, Arjun and his grandmother saw their own portraits hanging, adorned with flower garlands. Arjun realized why his father had moved abroad, why the constables found no signs of anyone inside the home, and why the torch turned on without batteries. The people who had entered the house began unpacking, talking about their vacation, and walking in front of them, but they couldn't see Arjun and his grandmother. Arjun and his grandmother stood there, wordless and unsure of everything.